I'd like to introduce Aunty Patsy Cameron. Her theme is the revival of the beating heart of country in the far northeast with the melythina, tiakana, warana, which is Heart of Country Aboriginal Corporation. It's a small, not-for-profit, restoring a beef cattle paddock to its original condition, and I've had the very good fortune of being with Aunty Patsy Cameron at Tomahawk in the far northeast where she lives and seeing the work she does. It was a very, very memorable and wonderful experience. Patsy Cameron, thank you very much. We'd like to welcome you to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Hello, everybody. Healing the beating heart of country is so important. I can't really see over the flowers. So I titled it to do with healing the heart of country, because we connect to our country in a way that's probably very different, that we look at country as being a living entity, a living, breathing entity, and it's really important to us that we treat our country like our mother. Just going to make sure I'm working this. Okay. As a member of melythina, tiakana, warana Aboriginal Corporation, as Sally said, it's a not-for-profit Aboriginal corporation. I want to share this project with you of the restoration, or the beginnings. We're just little babies really at Landcare. This is the beginning of us interacting with country, but I want to share it with you today. In fact, I've come today and left 30 volunteers way up in there in the northeast, probably using dinghies to get around. We've had so much rain. But they're actually working today. Wonderful, wonderful people that are working on country. This is my ancestor Melythina's country. The map isn't fabulous, but you can see it's bounded by, the map shows our homeland. It's Melythina's country. We call it Tepakuna country. Melythina was my ancestral grandfather. One of his daughters I am directly related to. We call ourselves Parabina or Trawaway clans people. And this little piece of land, it's just so very important to us. So that not only do we heal our country, we can heal ourselves in doing that. And I'm sure every one of you feel that way when you're restoring country. You feel that you're doing something that's so wonderful and beautiful to this earth. I think we all have to look at our earth as, this is the only planet that we have. It's our only place that we're going to be able to live, and we have to care for it. So we've been working with the wind farm group that have the lease on this land, and the grazier who's been grazing beef cattle there. It's a wonderful relationship. It's not written down in any sort of contract. We do it with honour and with trust, and the wind farm and the grazier allow us to have access to this piece of land. So there's 15 acres of... Oh, no, it's not. I get mixed up. It's 15 hectares. So I think that's about 40 acres. Uncle's there nodding to me. He's been there and he's walked on this country. In fact, he's cried for country. He's cried for country, Uncle. So, as I said, this is part of a beef cattle property that now operates at the Little Musselrow wind farm under those towers. So just you can imagine then that it's very open and it's very much under grass. It's bordered by the Bass Strait to the north and the east. Can you see that map very well? Yeah? That dark line that runs right down halfway to the... Yes. So there's a really thick dark line that runs down to your left. No, it's your right. that shows you where we've divided this piece of land with a new fence line, and the area to the left of that is the area of land that we're now restoring. So we're only 3 months into this project. 3 months, we're babies. So there's an electric fence that we've just purchased at quite an expensive piece of equipment, and we put the electric fence in just recently, and thank goodness we did, because the farmer just brought all the cows and the calves in just soon after that. And so we were so grateful that we got that electric fence in. As I said, we're a not-for-profit. We don't have any grants. In fact, a grant we applied for recently we didn't get a cracker of, and that was through Arts Tasmania, which was really, really sad for us. Okay, so you can see the fence line there that we installed, and this is to keep out those four-legged, hard-hooved mooing things, which none of us with melythina, tiakana, warana, Aboriginal Corporation really have anything to do with farming, so we're more like saltwater people, and we have a lot to do with the sea. So I keep away from those four-legged animals. So this slide shows you some of the impacts of grazing. You'll see on one side of the fence there's beautiful big tall she oak trees mostly. There's a lot of lamandra there, a lot of snakes and things like that. And on the side of the fence that I'm standing is the property. But I like to think that while I was standing there, I counted, after 6 months of being free of cattle, I counted up to 30 little she oaks that were growing up to my knees, in amongst all those dead ferns, which was just absolutely amazing. So one of the things that we had to face was this property's been grazed for over 100 years. So today there's about 30 of our members and friends and wonderful supporters who have turned up today to do that work. It's our third working bee. We started in June and we had one in August. We didn't do one in September, but we've just got one going now for... and there are people that arrived last night and today from all over the state to help us do some work on this property. We can't survive without volunteers. You know, every one of you that are volunteers for land care should be very proud and confident that you're very much appreciated, because I've left 30 volunteers up there, and the jobs they're going to be doing is real hard work. They're going to be grubbing out, I call them mongrel thistles. I've got no idea what they are, but those green and yellow horrible things that look like, I think they came down in a spaceship. They look alien to me, and they're horrible, awful, horrible things. So we've been grubbing out these thistles, or the workers have been, and that was one of the jobs that we had to do. But this, so hopefully they're all working really hard up there over the week, especially today, while the cat's away. In walking over country, because the first thing we do when we go up to country, this little piece of country, is we go walking and we just watch what's happening. And a couple of, I don't know what they're called, I'm sure somebody in the room will know that these little red tongues are called, precious little fungi, on your left. That's my dyslexia, I don't know my left from my right. I've got to turn around to make sure. Those little fungi, they're just beautiful, and they were out for, I don't know, like bright and beautiful, for a couple of months. Now they've gone, they've disappeared. If you walk past now, it's just a dead piece of wood. And the other slide I included here was, to our surprise, we came across 2 little tiny communities of rock fern. They're just beautiful. They're just like, and I could imagine that they would not have survived if cattle were all over that property still. So 6 months after those dreaded beasts have left, here are the little seedlings coming up. There's she oaks coming up as high as my knees. There's I'm just going to use common names because I can't remember scientific names. But there's hop, the wild hops there. That's a little plant of wild hop, and there's sort of mother trees just beside them that are now growing bigger, and grandmother trees that are probably a little bit more in the dead fallen wood that are surviving. But these are surviving because the cattle have gone. The other one is the boobiella or coastal wattle that's growing up. So to our delight, on another visit, because I go up probably once a week to country just to walk over, the healing of country is quite incredible. Because I think in a way, country is teaching us that it's healing, that it's if you give country a chance, given 6 months even, little plants will start to grow. So we're always delighted to come across something like this kangaroo apple that's flowering with those beautiful purple flowers, that you can, when they're ripe, when they're green, they're toxic, remember? When they're ripe, you can put them in the belly of a kangaroo and roast it and eat the curd with the meat. Or you might like to put it in the microwave or the oven, perhaps. So the kangaroo apple's a really important food resource for us, and I was pleased to see that there's a community of kangaroo apples growing about that size in an area where the cattle, again, would have liked to lie down in the dry, higher parts of the land. The other one, look at that. There's these communities of kangaroo grass that are coming up. Beautiful wild native grasses that are starting to expand all over the high country, which I think is just remarkable. Some of you might know one of the people in this image, but with our volunteers that come, we put them to work doing all sorts of things, including mattock-ing out those mongrel thistles. Oh, and I didn't tell you that when those thistles come out, we're now battling capeweed because we've disturbed the land and now we've got all these rotten capeweeds coming up. But anyway, hopefully we won't have to use any awful chemicals that will just keep persisting with hoeing it out. Here we've got a couple of wonderful volunteers who are planting 40 or up to 40 manuka tea trees. We wanted to plant some species that are local, that do grow locally, but I can't see actually having survived on the property to date. So we've got manuka tea trees being planted, and then the other side of there are some black peppermint gums which were donated to us from a wonderful nursery at Scottsdale. Now, black peppermint gums to us from the Northeast, from my ancestral grandfather's country, are kin. They are family. They are a majestic, beautiful trees that we actually care for in a way how you would care for your family. And when I go walking in the gorge, I often see, I see those beautiful, majestic black peppermint gum trees, which just remember when you come across them that you're among the Perabena and Chihuahua clanspeople. So the clean-up began, as I said, in June, and here is my husband supervising my son because he and I sort of do a lot of supervising these days. And our son is gathering up a lot of fallen limbs and branches of the old stands of she oak that have been battered by the cattle over many generations. And that's the thing about, I didn't show you on that map, but there are copse of trees interspersed with, you know, the grazing grass, which are really quite ancient and very battered because the cattle have used them as a scratching, you know, place to go and scratch. And so there was lots of fallen branches and limbs. One of our friends said you should leave a lot of that because it helps for our the little seedlings to be protected. But we're all sort of pretty scared of snakes, and there's a lot of snakes up there in the northeast, and they're not just little people; they're pretty big, So we get rid of a lot of that fallen timber where we can, because you know, families go up there, and we just need to watch out so that we can avoid those slimy things. So with all the gathering up of the bits and pieces and the branches and limbs, we had big fires going. And fires are really important to healing country, and also used by the ancestors as signal for signalling. So while we're healing country, we're sending messages to the ancestors that we're there and we're looking after country. We use fire to do that. Oh, and I should acknowledge Uncle Harold in the room as our fire warrior. I'll call him that. Uncle has been burning country since he was knee-high to a grasshopper, and we admire him for his work that he does, and he's desperate to pass on all of the knowledge of cool burning and caring for country using fire, because he's getting on a little bit. He's a bit older than me. Oh, well, he's in his 80s and I haven't reached that yet. And Uncle's really wanting to pass that knowledge on. And when he's up on country with us, he's talking to the young ones. And the next thing he does is strike a match. And of course, when it's proper time. And he argues that when country needs to be burned, it'll tell us. That country tells us when it's ready to be healed and burned. And it's not to get rid of understory, Uncle, is it? It's to restore its beating heart and to look after our country. Okay, I think I'm up to... Okay, I'm not sure. Can you identify that little plant? Any of you? So, you know, I'm sure that the ancestors are caring for our country all of the time. And this little piece of land, just said, was about 15 hectares of land. What did we come across? We came across shining dogwood. It's a rare and endangered species, and it's only found in the northeast, I believe. And it's found on our little piece of land. You know, that's so exciting to think that we've got a rare and endangered species that we can care for and look after. But I'm convinced that the ancestors came and planted them there for us. That's my belief. I believe, oh my God, when we went there the second time, I don't think they were there, Uncle, when you came the first time, but when we went there the second time, here they are, just up to our ankles, because they'd been eaten off, probably by the cows, I don't know. And I had an argument with somebody who happened to work for NRM, and I said, I think they're dogwood. They've got a tiny little leaf about the size of your thumbnail. And she said, no, I think that's coria. No, I'll bet it's dogwood. And it turned out to be shining dogwood, which is so precious. That land revealed itself to us through having something very significant on that country. So we'll never be able to remove that electric fence, will we? we have to stay there and care for that better country. I put this slide in to show you that with every volunteer you've got to look after them. You know, bit of good food, cups of tea. This is them having a break on country. That very first weekend that we went up there, everyone was exhausted. Three of the licensed people with chainsaw licenses had sawn that wood up for 5 hours and didn't stop. So they deserve that, and we should look after our volunteers. They're very precious. So this is my final slide, and I'm sitting on a big log of wood, which I found out that the men have claimed for their circle. And anyway, I titled it "Looking Forward, Looking Back," because I anticipate the land will look much different next time, next year and beyond, and perhaps we'll become very much land carers and be part of this conference in a couple of years, and we look forward to having that journey with you. So please watch this space. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Aunty Patsy Cameron.